And I'm in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top. Keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. The good life. Good life. Oh, good life. Good life. Good life. Good life.
Boom, coming in hot, Chinch, on a Monday. What's going on, man?
Not much. We got a lot going on here. First of all, the guest we have coming on, we don't make much money on this show, but we probably owe him like 25% of it because we read his articles and use them probably at least twice a week for segments.
We do.
And by the way, I don't know how we got yet like this. Like winter meetings starts like literally in 10 seconds. So
Yeah.
in here and getting
Yeah. We got to rush this guy out. This is a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine. We've been in this game for a while together. Author of A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. Check that book out. One of the best writers in Major League Baseball, best journalists out there too. Let's bring in our friend Anthony Castrovince. Anthony, what's up, brother?
Case, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Oh, man, great to have you on, man. How's it going? So talk to us, man. You're at the winter meetings, get started today. I know that's a crazy thing. When'd you get down to Nashville and what's going on?
Got to Nashville Sunday night. We had the Hall of Fame announcement. The small committee vote is always held on the Sunday of the winter meetings, and your guy Jimmy Leyland, of course, got in, deservedly so. So that was great to see. So a nice start, and then a big trade right off the bat. I'm traveling. I had my 3 kids on Sunday in Cleveland. A lot of stuff going on. So I'm ready to get into bed, and all of a sudden, boom, Jared Kelenic to the Braves. So that kind of came out of nowhere. So that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the winter meetings. The stuff like that can drop at any moment.
Let's go, dude. Tell us about that trade because we didn't. Chinch and I didn't even know we're coming on. You're breaking news on the mayor's office for us. Wait, Kelenic to the Mets,
to the Braves.
Okay, because I was thinking Kelenic was with the Mets, and now there's no way. So who did he go for?
Well, and the funny thing is, as you said, he was with the Mets, and that was the famous Robinson Cano trade.
Yes.
That and it looked like a huge steal for the Mariners at the time. But of course, Edwin Diaz was involved in that trade, so the Mets, probably got the better end of it in the long run, despite what we all said at the time of the deal. And then, the Braves, I don't think they technically have the rights to Robinson Cano anymore, but if they would have just somehow used Robinson Cano in this trade to get Kelenic, that would have been a nice, finishing touch. But no, yeah, Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White go to the Braves, and a couple pitchers go back. Jackson Kowar and Cole Phillips go back to Seattle. It's really a money deal case, where they're able to move Gonzalez and White and attach Kelenic to them in order to move that money. So you just wonder, is this what's going on in Seattle? Are they trying to shed salary, or are they pairing payroll with a big deal in mind? Because Juan Soto would be a great fit there. Shohei Ohtani would be an incredible fit there long term, but I don't know. That's just speculating.
Dude, let's stay there because I think that's the biggest thing with the winter meetings coming, man. We for the last few weeks we're hearing, hey, where's Ohtani going to land? Is it going to be at the winter meetings? Is Soto going to be traded? Where's he going to go to? Are the Yankees in play for him? And it sounds like maybe there's too much. What are you hearing out there right now? What's the buzz? And where do you think Ohtani and Soto, if Soto's traded, will land?
So we have the potential here. It's potential. I mean, this could be the most blockbuster winter meetings ever, if you think about it, because if we get an Ohtani signing and a Juan Soto trade in the same week, and it happens to be winter meetings week, I mean, that's as good as you can hope for, because Ohtani's contract, by all accounts, will set a new standard for North American professional sports. So that right there is a blockbuster among blockbusters. And a Juan Soto deal, players like that just don't usually get traded, let alone twice in a year and a half, where he's entering his age 25 season on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I equate it to it's a little different because it was 2 years of control at the time. This is 1 year of control of Soto, but it reminds me a bit of when Miguel Cabrera was traded right in this building from the Marlins to the Tigers. It's that kind of deal where it's rare to get that level of young hitter in a trade. So That could come down any day. Obviously, there's been talks with the Yankees, and you see all these reports about, it sounds like the Padres are looking for a small fortune, or not so small fortune for this guy. And of course, Ohtani looking for a fortune as well. But I think the Ohtani market's kind of coming to a head. I think it's happening quietly, the meetings with teams, and that's the way Ohtani's camp wants it to be. And they're swearing everybody to secrecy, basically. But I suspect that I'd be surprised if that one's not done this week.
What teams do you think are really involved with Ohtani? What are are there 3 or 4 teams that are really the front runners?
Well, there's the ones we knew going into the winter, and the Dodgers at the forefront, and the Giants, and I think the big maybe surprise in the last few weeks that's developed is how earnest the Blue Jays are. Yeah. In both that market and the Juan Soto market. Not that they would acquire both, that's not happening, but the fact that they are at that level is a really interesting dynamic to this winter, and that happens sometimes where teams have urgency that you didn't necessarily piece together going into the winter, but it kind of makes sense. They were a really disappointing team in 2023. You think about the contract situations of their higher ups, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, and what they have at stake. They just did these ballpark renovations, a ton of money poured into Rogers Center. So you could see where there would be urgency to do, something that works and something that, engages with the fans. And I always think that Canada, Toronto is somewhat of a sleeping giant still, where your market size is Canada, and I know Canada.
Yeah, you're a country. You're a country.
It's not as large as the United States, of course, but it's pretty big. So that's a huge opportunity. Think about the growth for the game. If someone like Ohtani were to go there, the international element, he'd have eyes from 3 countries, all upon him. So that'd be pretty cool.
I got
2 things. Go ahead, Chinch.
Just because Case and I did a whole show on. We thought it was so funny when the whole thing about like the espionage, like, if you leak this, going there, like,
right.
From your perspective, from the writer's perspective, specifically like the beat writers, are those guys like, should I not? Is it not worth pulling the trigger now? That's part 1. Part 2, my question, like, does this feel the closest thing to like espionage that I remember being this crazy was when Pujols, I don't remember where that was, when Pujols signed when everybody was about to get on their planes, go home.
Right. That's right.
Like, how do you compare this to that? And how much weirder is the Ohtani situation as compared to like some of the regular deals we've seen over the years?
Yeah, that's a big one. Pujols, I was literally boarding my flight, and I think a lot of us were. And it was annoying because we were there in Dallas all week waiting for that moment, and he does it when we're on our way out. And that happens, So, this is as big as it gets, guys, because he's such a unique player, and I know we'll talk about that, but and the number is going to be astronomical.
Yeah, what do you think the number is going to be?
Well, north of 500 seems like a foregone conclusion at this point. I just don't know what this contract's going to look like. What kind of provisions? Because he's such an unusual player. So, are there provisions based on innings? Or I have no idea. And he's injured on the pitching side, which further complicates matters. And I'm sure there'll be opt-outs aplenty on his part. So, I think it's going to be a different looking contract than we've ever seen, both the number and the provisions. But this is as big as it gets, and the secrecy element. This was the case 6 years ago when he came over the United States. It was all of a sudden, that bomb was dropped. I believe it was the night before the winter meetings, like the Saturday night, and everybody starts arriving on Sunday. And I think it was Saturday. I remember it was at Disney that year, and I was with my kids at Disney when they got the Ohtani.
Hey, there's no good timing, right?
No, never. But that's the way this guy operates. He's a different dude. He's a different kind of player. He's a different kind of preparation, different in his relationship with the media. He doesn't have the media responsibilities that most players have. He just doesn't do it. And, this is how he's handling his free agency. And so it's hard enough to get people to talk under normal circumstances, right. let alone when the player is saying you will be penalized for leaking anything. So we're all just guessing still at this moment.
Speaking of being a different player, you wrote a great article, I believe it was last week, and Chinch and I were talking about it on the show about, he's only been here 6 years, but he's been so unique. We've never seen anything like it. Like, people like to compare him to Babe Ruth at the beginning, but it's not even close. It's just Ruth wasn't, he was known more as the hitter, where Ohtani is now one of the best hitters and pitchers in the league. And we talked about Jim Leyland, off the top, getting into Cooperstown last night. We'll talk more about that, which is incredible. But Ohtani, if his career ended today in the States, do you think he's a Hall of Famer, and why?
Well, technically, he's got to play in 4 more seasons to be a Hall of Famer. Now, we could go, next level and say, well, he's been a hitter and a pitcher for 6 seasons. So should those all count as 2? There's 12 right there. But no, if he appears in 4 seasons, I don't care what happens in those 4 seasons. This guy's a Hall of Famer. And wow. I mean, even if something terrible were to happen, I mean, you could still maybe finagle something down the road, because to me, it's like, I present this story the other day. To me, it's kind of obvious, but you do get a lot of pushback from people, and people citing, well, here's Babe Ruth's numbers next to Ohtani's numbers. It's like, okay, first of all, we're comparing him to Babe Ruth. Like, that should tell you something right there. But second of all, this is not a numbers thing. Like, people are saying, like, well, he needs 500 more RBIs, an X number of home runs. Like, no, this is not the normal Hall of Fame discussion about numbers. He has put up elite numbers as a hitter and a pitcher for 3 seasons, and nobody's done that. And nobody's even tried to do it in the live ball era. Babe Ruth, God love him, he gave this up. He's like, it's too hard. Fingers. I'm gonna eat hot dogs and hit fingers, and that's what I'm gonna do. And he did great. Ohtani did an MVP caliber performance for 3 years as a pitcher and a hitter. It's so hilarious when they announce designated hitter of the year and it's a pitcher. So it's just crazy. So to me, it's just a historical argument where I don't compare Ohtani to Babe Ruth so much as I compare him to some like pioneers of baseball, like 1800s. Like, that's where you have to go with this guy, because, baseball in the 1800s, the game was figuring itself out. It was figuring out initially, initially the pitcher's job was to make the batter put the ball in play and hit the ball, and then it became more of an adversarial thing where the pitcher's trying to get the batter out, and the number of balls and strikes was finagled. All these things, every element of the game was fiddled with over the course of the 1800s, and then you get to the 1900s, and we got the game that it's obviously different, but generally speaking, it's what we see today. I think the biggest development since then had been the way pitchers are used, and the emergence of the relief ace and that sort of thing, and so you have Raleigh Fingers in the Hall of Fame with, maybe not elite numbers compared to some of the other relievers in the Hall of Fame even, but, he was part of that movement. And then you got the 1800s guys, the early, pioneers who just changed the way the sport was played, managed, etc. Ohtani's done that. Like, he has ushered in a completely new conversation of the game that did not exist before. This was not on the table. If you were drafted as a 2-way player, it was like, all right. And
pick one.
You're going to pick one in your first year, probably.
Right.
So, I mean, one thing to note is in this last draft, there were 8 2-way players drafted. That was twice as many as the previous 4 years combined.
Wow.
This is the Ohtani era. And I don't know if any of those guys will stick, but when he came here, Case, 6 years ago, everyone's saying, well, this can't be done, obviously. And he did it. So he's changed the conversation. Now it's on the table. Now it's like, okay, well, let's pursue this 2-way thing with player X, because maybe it can work. So I just think he's an important player historically from that perspective. I think he's totally rewritten what is possible.
I think what's even more crazy about the whole thing is that, like, you could see a guy that has a great arm. Maybe he's a center fielder, right? Or a right fielder. This guy can hit, he can bang, and we bring him in to close. Right, you could. The fact that he's a starter for me is incredible. You watch when you're in the clubhouse and you're on these teams and you watch these starters prepare for their start in 5 days, their routines, what they do. Just getting done watching Garrett Cole do it, I'm like, wow, 5 days getting ready to prepare for that one start, then do it again. I can't even imagine these guys being the best hitter in baseball on those other days.
Yeah, I try not to be the guy who's like, you don't understand what it's like, to fans who are on
You
the
should
outside.
be.
But like,
You should be.
it does drive me crazy when people say, "Oh, he doesn't even play a position." Well, first of all, he plays a position called pitcher, and that's a tough position, you know. And I've seen a case just like you. I mean, I've seen the great to be great as a starting pitcher.
Yes.
The work it takes between starts, and he just happens to be swinging a bat on those days. And so I get infuriated when people say, you know, he doesn't play a position when he's not pitching. Well, geez, I mean, what do you want from this human being? And, you know, I really believe, I've talked to enough people about this, you know, with the arm strength, all like, if he can't go again, if he can't post anymore as a pitcher after this second surgery, I mean, who knows what happens?
Right.
He could probably make it work in right field. I think he could be a good right fielder if it came down to it. I've heard other people say what you just said about, you know, what if he came in as a closer? I think that's harder just because, you know, the warm up and, you know, how do you make yourself ready in game when you're playing? You know, it gets complicated.
Right.
But I think
that's
like,
a good point. Yeah, you'd have to pull them out. Yeah, you're right. That's another
but if for some reason pitching is a no-go down the road during this contract, whatever, I think he can play a position. I think this guy's pretty uber athletic.
No, it is unbelievable, and it's going to be so fun. This is a fun time of the year for all of us, especially baseball rats, and especially the writers and the analysts and all that stuff. The winter meetings. This is where all the juice happens. You know, this is where I want to go back to Soto really quick because that's a big one too. I mean, this guy's so young. He's going to transform the game. Turned down $450 million a few years ago. That's the reason he was traded to San Diego. Right. And the rumor keeps hitting because you think that, you know, being with the Yankees, they definitely need a lefty of a star bat. There's no doubt about it. Now, the question is, because he's with Boris, he's probably not signing an extension if you trade for him. Do you feel that way? You know, so where it's a little bit different than maybe the Cabrera trick, because when Cabrera got traded, it seemed like he got that extension right away. Soto. Yeah. What do you think he would go to free agency? And do you think that the Yankees would have to give up too much? Is Michael King and Dominguez or some of these guys are being thrown around, Volpe, is that too much for a guy like Soto for a 1-year rental if they couldn't sign him long term?
I mean, to me, like a Volpe or a Dominguez, that seems like too much for a rental for me. Yeah. Michael King, I think, has a lot of potential, and I think you can build a deal around him. And we've seen, you know, reports of, you know, King and Thorpe plus, you know, 4 or 5 other guys. That's sounding a little crazy to me. I think,
right.
But I think it would be reasonable for a 1-year rental with that kind of money attached, where you're talking about, you know, 30 million or whatever his arbitration number is going to be. You know, I think I think Michael King is a reasonable piece to build around. I really do. Yeah. And would help the Padres, but you know, that's just me playing Yankees general manager, perhaps. But and I have no East Coast bias, by the way.
Yeah.
But I rooted for the Yankees when you were with the Yankees.
Oh, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
But no, it's complicated because we've seen where position players don't have the value that pitchers have, particularly rentals like that. But Soto is such a different dude. So, but then there's the money attached. You can go back and forth on his value. It's kind of a tough one. This is a really thin market in free agency for position players. So that helps the Padres in terms of the trade value. And as far as him re-signing, you know, yeah, I mean, Boris guys do tend to go to free agency, but everybody has a number, you know. If the Yankees were to be the team to meet that number, he'd sign. That would be an incredible fit long term. Just an incredible fit. But yeah, I think of all the teams that are in on him on trade, I mean, that's the one that you feel like he could go there and stay
could make
there,
it happen.
You know?
Yeah. I want to get into a little bit last night. Obviously, the first chip fell as far as you know, the Veterans Committee, the ERIC Committee getting in Jim Leyland getting elected last night with 15 of the possible 16 votes. Man, I played for Skip in 06 and 07, some of the greatest times of my career with Detroit in 06, going to the World Series. And for me, you know, he is an icon. I always thought if Jim Leyland's not in Cooperstown, we're missing something here. Cooperstown wouldn't be complete. That's kind of how I felt. So to see him go in last night, for me, being a former player, I was so excited. What was your feeling when you saw that Jim Leyland went into the Hall of Fame last night?
A lot of feelings. You know, this is a guy I got to be around quite a bit. You know, I'm based in Cleveland, and so, you know, the Tigers come in, you know, 3 times a year, and and I'd go to Detroit quite a bit too when they were in the midst of that run, which you were a part of. And, you know, it was a really cool thing to be around him and see how he manages a team. How it's a tough thing to manage a star-laden team, and he did that so well. I mean, there's drama and controversy that comes with that, and I think he handled all that well. And really, I mean, this guy's got a real gruff exterior, but he's also got a heart of gold. And you see that the more time you spend with him, and many great moments of sitting in his office while he's laying on his couch in his underwear and smoking a cigarette. And
I love it. Love
stories.
it.
I mean, just a true old school baseball guy. But very deserving. But also my other thoughts on this. I mean, I get it. I get kind of frustrated with the small committee process where it's 16 people in the room making the votes, and you got to be on 75% of ballots submitted, and they're all limited to 3 votes. And there's 8 guys on that ballot. And I mean, there's some really compelling Hall of Fame cases on that ballot last night.
Yeah.
And Lou Piniella, if Leyland's in, I think, right? I mean, does Lou Piniella lessen the Hall of Fame in any way? I don't think so. No. Leyland has the better postseason resume. So I would say, like, if I had to pick one guy on that ballot, I'd probably be, Jim Leyland. But
Piniella was also a player.
Yeah, and Piniella missed by 1 vote case two times in a row now. I mean,
my gosh!
And I want to see these guys celebrated while they're with us. I don't think that's too much to add. Yeah. And then the increased difficulty now, as we look ahead to the next time we're going to go through this process, you're going to have Terry Francona, Dusty Baker, Mike Scioscia. They're all going to be on this ballot. Wow. So it gets even more crowded. And again, 3 votes. I mean, what do you do with that? And so there's no transparency.
Are these guys allowed?
I think it should be like a yes/no. I think the ballot should be yes/no. And
are they allowed to come?
What's wrong with that?
Can they come back on?
Yeah, they come back on. It's the committee to decide the committee. There's a committee to decide the ballot. The committee votes on. It's quite a process. So I have some quibbles, to say the least, with how it's done for this particular part of the program. But great to see Jim Leyland in, and then you have Cito Gaston, the first. I know Cito.
Bill White just missed too.
Bill White, incredible baseball life, important career. It's kind of crazy that what gets left by the wayside sometimes in these processes.
No, I agree. It can be frustrating. Before we let you go, man, I got one more player I just want to throw out there. Bellinger's such an interesting case. Went from an MVP to major struggles for a couple of years, and back to a MVP candidate with the Cubs, and almost 100 RBIs, hit over 300. Where do you think he'll land? What are you hearing, and what will his money look like? Do you think?
Oh, it's probably going to be a big number in this market, and a number that makes me uncomfortable personally, just because. I mean, he's non-tendered a year ago with good reason, given the money that the Dodgers would have had to pay at the time. And then, the Cubs pick him up on a 1-year deal. It goes great. But it's so hard to know what to expect from him, projecting moving forward. Good defender. And when he's right offensively, when he's a good frame of mind and all that stuff, I mean, he can deliver, as we saw this year. But I don't know. I think it's going to be an uncomfortable number just given where the market is. And going back to the Cubs is not out of the realm of possibility. The Giants are always on the hunt for a bat and a guy.
The Giants have to land somebody this winter meetings. I mean, I know they put the big number out for Judge last year. That would have been a huge. But the Giants, I feel like, man, they need somebody soon.
Yeah, it's just interesting because there's everything affects every other thing, and Ohtani really holds up that particular market, as does Soto, and. So I think we just kind of wait for those situations to be settled. But the Giants are in a lot. Yamamoto, the pitcher from Japan, he's someone of interest to them as well. So it really is this could be a fun week. It should be a fun winter in general, but hopefully a lot gets done this week because we're kind of on a roll with the winter meetings. The last 2 in 2019 and last year were really good. I mean, Garrett Cole, record contract. And then last year, Aaron Judge, a record contract. So I think we could see another record contract this week. We could see a major blockbuster trade. We'll see.
Well, one last thing, Anthony. Insider most likely to get caught in an owner suite with a lampshade over his head this week.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Ken's always hiding in a tree somewhere. He's the nicest guy. Sherman, it's more like The Shining, where he'll just break through it.
Heyman's barging in.
I was gonna say John Heyman. He's quirky enough to. I love John Heyman. He's got a great sense of humor, and that would be. I could see that. Yeah, I'll go with John Heyman.
Johnny's the best. Oh, that's so great, man. Well, dude, Anthony, man, thank you so much. Wait, really quick before we go, where could our listeners find you, man, and your great stuff?
Yeah, write for MLB.com and appear on MLB Network, and if you want to subject yourself to the X platform, I'm on there at my last name at Castrovince.
All right, man. Awesome, man, dude. Thank you so much for coming on with us, brother. Good luck at the winter meetings, and hopefully some big stuff hits, and maybe we'll have you on again this week.
Hey, that'd be great. Yeah. I owe you for all the times I bothered you in the Reds clubhouse on the beat way back when. I owe you a lot of these hits.
You were the best, bro. You're the best. That's why we're still connected, man. I appreciate it, man, and have fun in Nashville, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Oh man, that was great for me. From the production side of things, he's one of the best in the business, man. I love that guy. He's great.
Oh,
right?
He's the best, dude. He's the best. He's so good too. Like you read his articles. You see him on MLB Network, man. He's just so good at what he does. So talented.
Yeah.
And like I said, dude, we were together when he was a young buck, and I was still a pretty young buck. I guess I was like 29, 30, and we were in Cincinnati together. So.
Awesome.
It's fun how your paths always cross. Small world here in the baseball world.
Yeah, totally. Hey, so we got the huge week coming up, and we got stuff going on. We got Wagner coming on, people like that, but we can't go, man, with that very first person that Jim Leyland talked about last night when he was on with Harold and the guys was my boy Sean Casey. Called me like, you guys have a relationship that goes well beyond the time that you played for him. Even you guys are close friends. We've had him on. You give us one. You got to give us your defining take on this.
Dude, he's such a dear friend of mine. I couldn't have been more excited. I just talked to him the other day, and Skip's such a humble guy, probably one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet. And I was like, Skip, what do you think about you getting in? He's like, I don't think so. Too many good guys on the thing. He's like, I don't think so. Not this year. And if you listen to what he said was, they were supposed to call him between 6:30 and 7. It was like 6:50. And I guess he went upstairs to his room to kind of like, hey, it's a big deal for Jim Leyland. I'm like, not getting in, hey, it's kind of your last hurrah. And his son, Pat, comes up to be like, you good, Dad? And he's like, hey, it's all good, man. It is what it is. And then like he said 10 seconds later, they get the call, and it's the Hall of Fame saying that he got in on 15 of 16 possible votes. I mean, Cooperstown, for me, would never have been complete if Jim Leyland wasn't in it. That's how much he means to the game of baseball and to the guys that play for him. Marcus Timms texted me right away, dude. Oh, man, incredible. Ryan Dempster, hey, send me Leyland's number. All these, it's so many people, man. Anyone who's played for Jim Leyland, this guy is an icon. The way he treats people. He's the ultimate communicator, the ultimate person that he knows everybody's kids' names, families' names, wives. How's everybody doing? He's basically running court every day during batting practice. Gave one of the most incredible speeches ever before. When we went to the World Series in 2006, we kind of backed in the playoffs in the wild card. We got together before Yankee Stadium. He, got the media out. He sat down. We sat down around a table. He's like, bring up your chairs, man. We were all around a table. And Jim Leyland gave one of the most inspirational talks I've ever heard. I thought I was playing football. I would have run through a freaking wall. All of us would have just barged through the brick wall if we could. And that was a big reason. And we end up, I believe, kind of flipping the switch and beating the Yankees, beating the A's, and going to the World Series. But a quick story about Jimmy Leyland, man. This is how awesome he is and how he makes you feel like you're part of the team right away. I got traded over to the Tigers at the deadline in 2006. And I remember talking to Leyland on the phone. He's like, hey, man, can you make it down to Tampa? I'm like, I'll be right down. So I fly down to Tampa. Right away, now I was a huge Jim Leyland fan growing up because I was a huge Pirate fan. So I love Leyland, love the Buccos, all those teams of Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke. And so I always loved Leyland. And I never really had a big conversation with him, but I run into him a couple times when he was a scout for the Cardinals in between a couple years. He took like 7 years off managing. So I'd really never really had a conversation with them. So when I get to the clubhouse in Tampa with Detroit, all the media is around me, Chinch, and they all got their microphones. How's it feel to be traded? You went from the outhouse to the penthouse. You know, you're in the worst team to the best team, and you're right in the middle. And I'm like, I'm so excited to be here, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, Leyland's grabbing me. Hey, guys, how you doing? I just got to grab Case real quick. I got to go over the signs with him. So I'm like, all right, I tell the media, hey, I'll be right back. I got Leyland pulling me. I got to go. So bam, Leyland takes me to his office. Now, for me, dude, being a Pirate fan growing up, this is like Pittsburgh Central, dude. Like, I walk in, there's Gene Lamont, former Pirate manager. I walk in, there's Lloyd McClendon, former Pirate manager. You know what I mean? Played against these guys. So it's me, Jim Leyland, and Gene Lamont and Lloyd McClendon. Now, Gene Lamont and Lloyd McClendon are like Batman and Robin, dude. They're the best of friends for 70 years, dude. It's incredible. So we're in there, and Lamont's the third base coach. So Leyland's like, hey, Case, great to have you, bro. Glad you can make it down to Tampa. He's like, we got to get you the signs, man. We got to let you know the signs before this game starts. So, Gino, go ahead and give Case the signs. So I'm locked in too, Chance. I'm like, this is incredible. And man, I'm a little starstruck because I think that big of Leyland, right? He has no idea. It's almost my 10th year in the big leagues, and I'm starstruck with next to Leyland. So Gene Lamont's like, all right, Case. He goes, now stay with me. I'm going to go through the signs right here. Now I go to my hat. When I go to my ear, that means it's hot. That means something's on. So I'm going to go through the signs, go to my ear, it's hot. Boom, I go to my hat, it's a hit and run. And I go, okay. He goes, now I could take it off too. I could put it on and take it off down the arms, but that's the hit and run. He goes, we're not going to give you the bunt sign. So that's the one sign you really got to pay attention to. Then Leyland pops in. Leland's like, he's like, all right, Case. He goes, there you go. There's a hit and run there. And he goes, now listen to me. He goes, now I'm locked in too. I'm locked in him. He goes, now listen to me. He goes, you get a hit, you get a single or a walk, and you get to first base. He goes, I don't want you looking at Gino for the signs. I want you looking in the dugout for me. He goes, if I come up to the top step and we catch eyes, as soon as we catch eyes, stay with me. And I'm like locked in, Chinch. He goes, if I jump up and never come back down, you steal. And I was like, I'm locked in. I was like, what the? And I just started laughing. He started laughing. Everyone started laughing. If I jump up and never come back down, you steal. And that was my first conversation with Jim Leyland in Detroit, and talk about like just breaking the ice, man. Oh man, this guy, his humor, his laughter, one of the funniest guys going. So Skip, I'm so excited for you. You're probably not watching the mayor's office, but I'm going to throw it out there. Jim Leyland in Cooperstown, 2024. Cooperstown is complete. Congrats to who I feel like is one of the greatest managers of all time.
Man, maybe he's gonna have you intro him. But that's a great.
I would love to, dude. I would love to.
I'd be shocked. Anyway, all right, great stuff, man. We got a big week ahead of us. That was so cool for Anthony coming on with us.
Yeah,
So happy for you, guys. Last night, you would have thought Sean Casey got into the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's jumping around his house. I'm surprised he didn't knock down the fancy tree in the background. Anyway,
so excited.
I'm happy for you too. Happy for Leyland. Yeah. Excited about these winter meetings. We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun, Chinch. You tune in this week to the mayor's office. You want all the good stuff.
When's Billy Wagner? Tomorrow?
We got Billy Wagner tomorrow. We got winter meetings. We got Billy Wagner, who's hopefully going to get into Cooperstown this year in the vote in about a month. Let's go. Tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great show.
I'm working on Ohtani for Wednesday. I'm going to get us Ohtani.
Okay, see if you can get us. I'll get us Soto for Thursday.
Okay, great. And then we'll get Babe Ruth to get out of the grave and get him on Friday. It's going to be
a great week at the mayor's office, dude.
See you, buddy.
Oh, man. Okay. All right, JT. Love you, brother.